Hey, John here. Some of you might have seen my original Nimbus 2000. In this video, I will attempt to improve on my original build. I will point out what I think worked and what I think did not. So if it does not work, stick with the original. For starters, this broom will be made from real mahogany. So if you intend on making this one, plan on adding about $70 to the project. Also, I will be placing this broom on eBay, so as long as the link is still below in the description box, you can bid on it. Let's get started.
I started this time with an 8x4 piece of mahogany. I don't have a lumber yard nearby, so I have to make do with what Home Depot has. To get to this point, all the steps in the previous video were the same. Try and draw your handle all the way out to the left of the board to save space. Once the handle is drawn out, take it to the miter saw and cut it in half. You can use a jigsaw here too, but I'm just lazy, so a miter saw is faster. This is how I compensated for the lack of width of my board. The original board was about an inch wide. Joining the two pieces together here will give me the added width I need. I simply take some wood glue and place a bead in the area where the handle will be. I use my other piece as a guide, and then I simply take a paint roller and spread it out thin. I will assume you do not have any clamps, but if you do, great. But here I will tell you that any heavy weighted object will do. After you apply your glue, simply lay the boards on their side and place a weight on it until it dries. I received a lot of emails from the last video saying, "We don't have the fancy equipment you have." So I will show you this can all be done with a drill and a jigsaw. Ensure you have your piece tightly secure before you begin cutting. Don't try to hold the piece and cut at the same time. Now that the handle is cut out, place it on its side and check your width. What you want is the handle to be 1 inch wide. And because I want my seam in the center, I will cut 1/4 of an inch off each side instead of just cutting it once at a 1/2 inch. Last time, I used the bandsaw to make my cuts. If you have a circular saw, use it. Cutting this with a jigsaw would be too tough. To save time, I cut each side with the table saw. In the last video, I talked about how the table saw could not be raised high enough to make a complete cut, and that's why I used the bandsaw. Here you will see what I mean. But this can be quickly solved by flipping the piece over and cutting the excess wood. You would probably still have the same problem with a circular saw. With a 1/4 inch cut from each side, your broom handle is now 1 inch wide. Take your time sanding and round and smooth all edges. If you have a router, you can save yourself some time by taking off the edges prior to sanding. Okay, unlike last time, I gave up on staining the handle and ended up painting it brown. This time, I get to use Bombay mahogany and stain the handle properly. Just like all my projects, I simply rub the stain on with paper towels. This time, success. This grain and this stain look stunning together. No changes to the kickstand this time, but I decided to make the kickstand bracket smaller, both for appearance and to do away with having to add the plastic to keep the kickstand from sliding back and forth. All steps in this process were the same as the first. This time I just cut the pieces smaller before I put them together. And the same process goes with filling out the bristles. Same process from foam to stems. One thing I failed to show in the first video was the application of the lettering on the handle. I did not use any fancy paint. I simply used a vinyl cutter and cut out the letters and applied them to the broom. With a clear coat over the letters, they are pretty much permanent. This time around, I decided to make it easier and use screws instead of rivets, but in the end, the rivets make a better product. I drilled my pilot holes and attached my bracket. This was not shown in the first video. I stained my bristles with oak stain, the same as before, and then I took them outside to apply a clear coat of spray shellac. I covered the banding so I would not get spray on them, and I sprayed the entire broom. Then I let it sit out in the sun to cure. If you feel I went too fast or would like to see any of these steps in detail, go back and watch the original video. And that's it. Those were all the changes. Make sure you subscribe if you don't want to miss the making of the firebolt.